They tell you the cold in Alaska is different, that it doesn't just bite your skin, it seeps into your bones, a deep, ancient cold that drains the warmth right out of your soul. They're wrong. Here, at this lonely little pinprick of light on a forgotten highway, it's not the cold you have to worry about. It's what comes with it. I have a list given to me by the old man who hired me. A simple, handwritten list of rules. Rules that don't make sense. Rules you'd laugh at in the daylight. But out here in the endless, suffocating dark, they're the only thing keeping you alive until sunrise. And tonight, I think I just broke one. My name is Leo. 6 months ago, my life was normal. I was a line cook in Anchorage, flipping burgers, complaining about my bills, trying to figure out how to help my mom with my little sister Maya's medical expenses. Her lungs are weak, a condition she was born with, and the specialist treatments cost more than a line cook could ever dream of. So, I did what any desperate brother would do. I started looking for a second job, a third, anything that paid well. That's when I saw the ad, tacked onto a corkboard at a grimy laundromat. Night attendant wanted, remote gas station, Knik River region. Excellent pay, must be reliable and able to work alone. No questions asked. The pay they offered was insane, more than double what I made in a month at the restaurant. It felt too good to be true. I called the number. A gravelly voice on the other end just gave me directions and a time. The Knik River Gas and Go is a generous name. It's more of a shack, a single structure with 2 ancient-looking gas pumps out front, surrounded on all sides by a dense, suffocating forest of black spruce and birch. The woods press in on this place like a dark ocean waiting to reclaim a tiny, stubborn island of light. The man who interviewed me was named Earl. He was old, with skin like wrinkled parchment and eyes that seemed to hold a century of sleepless nights. He didn't ask for a resume, he didn't ask for references. He just looked me up and down, a long, searching look, and seemed to measure my desperation. "You need the money bad, don't you, son?" he'd rasped, his voice a dry rustle. I just nodded. "My sister, she's—" He held up a hand, stopping me. "Don't matter. The reasons are your own. The job is simple. You sit here from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. You pump gas if anyone comes, which they rarely do. You sell coffee and snacks. You keep the place clean." He slid a folded, yellowed piece of paper across the counter. "And you follow these rules. To the letter. No exceptions. You understand me? This ain't a game." I unfolded the paper. It was handwritten in a shaky, spidery script. Rules for the night shift. After midnight, never turn your back on the woods. Not for a second. The old payphone outside will sometimes ring. Answer it with "We're closed" and immediately hang up. Do not listen to any other words. A man will occasionally come in to buy a carton of milk. He will not have a shadow. Do not look at his face. Do not make eye contact. Take his money, give him his change, and do not speak unless spoken to. The power cuts out. Lock the front door immediately. Get behind the counter, stay low, and stay silent until the emergency generator kicks in. The bell on the door is a liar in the dark. I read it twice. I almost laughed. It felt like a prank, an elaborate hazing for the new guy. "Is this for real?" I asked. Earl's face was grim. There was no humor in his eyes. "Every word. You follow them, you collect your paycheck. You don't, I'll be scraping what's left of you off the linoleum, and I'm getting too old for that." He sighed, a heavy, tired sound. "The money is in an envelope in the back office every Wednesday. You'll work 7 nights a week. You want the job or not?" I thought of Maya, her small, frail body, her wheezing breaths in the winter. I thought of the stack of medical bills on my mom's kitchen table. "I'll take it," I said. My first few nights were quiet, unnervingly quiet, the kind of silence that presses in on your ears. The only sounds were the hum of the drink coolers, the buzzing of the fluorescent lights, and the howl of the wind outside. I spent my time reading old paperbacks, wiping down counters that were already clean, and drinking stale coffee. I kept an eye on the woods, mostly out of a weird sense of obligation to the old man's rules. It felt stupid. It was just a bunch of trees. But there was something about the darkness out here. It was deeper, more absolute than any city darkness. The station's lights barely pushed it back a few feet before it swallowed everything whole.
On the fourth night, it happened. The payphone. It was an old rotary phone in a rusted metal box mounted on the outside wall. I hadn't even thought it was connected. But at 2:17 a.m., it let out a shrill, piercing ring that made me jump out of my skin. My heart hammered in my chest. I looked at the list. Rule number 2. Answer with "We're closed" and immediately hang up. It was just a phone call, probably a wrong number. But my hand was shaking as I walked to the door, unlocked it, and stepped into the biting cold. The wind whipped at me. The phone rang again, insistent. I picked up the heavy, ice-cold receiver. "We're closed," I said, my voice coming out as a croak. For a split second, before I could slam the phone down, I heard something from the earpiece. It wasn't a dial tone. It was a voice, a wet, gurgling whisper, like someone talking through a mouthful of water. It said my name. Leo. I slammed the receiver back onto the cradle so hard the whole box rattled. I scrambled back inside, locking the door behind me, my heart trying to beat its way out of my rib cage. It was a coincidence. It had to be. A prank call, some local kids messing with the new guy. But how did they know my name? I didn't sleep for the rest of that shift. Every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. Every shadow seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at it. The woods no longer looked like just trees. They looked like they were watching me, waiting. A week later, I had my first encounter with rule number 3. The bell over the door jingled, and a man walked in. He was average in every way, nondescript jacket, jeans, worn boots. He moved with a strange, gliding silence. He went straight to the cooler, pulled out a carton of whole milk, and brought it to the counter. As he set it down, the overhead fluorescent light caught him just right. I saw the floor around his feet. There was no shadow, nothing. It was like he didn't exist enough to block the light. My blood ran cold. He will not have a shadow. Do not look at his face. I kept my eyes glued to the carton of milk. "That'll be $4.50, I mumbled, my gaze fixed on my price scanner. He slid a $10 bill across the counter. His hand was pale, the skin almost translucent. I rang it up, my fingers fumbling. I counted out his change, a 5 2/4. I put it on the counter, careful not to touch his hand. "Thank you," he said. His voice was flat, empty, like a recording. I just nodded, my eyes still down. He picked up the milk and his change and walked out. The bell jingled. I waited a full minute, then risked a glance out the window. He was gone. There were no footprints in the thin layer of snow by the pumps. It was as if he had never been there at all. I leaned against the counter, my legs feeling like jelly. This wasn't a prank. This was real. Every terrifying, nonsensical rule was real. The job became a ritual of survival. I developed a routine. I'd arrive, start the coffee, and immediately check the list, refreshing the rules in my mind. I'd sit in a way that I never had my back fully to the front windows, to the woods. I started leaving the jerky out every morning like a devout priest leaving an offering. On the nights when the payphone rang, my heart would seize, but I'd perform the ritual. Walk out, say the words, hang up, lock the door, and try to forget the gurgling sound that sometimes leaked through. One night, I was restocking the potato chips, my back to the cooler doors for just a moment. A flicker of movement in the reflection caught my eye. I froze. Rule number 4. If you see a reflection that isn't actually in the store, clean the glass until it's gone. I slowly turned. There, reflected in the polished glass, was my own image. And behind me, standing by the coffee machine, was a little girl with long, dark hair covering her face. She was just standing there, motionless in the reflection. I whipped my head around. The space by the coffee machine was empty. There was no one there. My breath hitched. I looked back at the cooler door. She was still there in the glass, a pale, silent observer. My hands trembled as I grabbed a bottle of Windex and a roll of paper towels. I started wiping the glass, my eyes locked on the spot where her reflection stood. I wiped and wiped, my arm aching. I smeared the glass, then wiped it clean, over and over. With each pass of the paper towel, her image seemed to fade, to become more transparent. It took 10 agonizing minutes, but finally she was gone. I was left staring at my own terrified face in the reflection, alone again. The tall man came the following month. It was snowing heavily, thick, wet flakes that muffled all sound. It was almost peaceful. Then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. It was on the main front window. Slow, deliberate, methodical. I didn't have to look. I knew who it was. Rule number 5, do not acknowledge the tall man. My instinct was to scream, to hide, to run. But Earl's warning echoed in my mind. He feeds on attention. So I did the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I stayed in my chair. I picked up my paperback book and stared at the pages, my eyes not reading a single word. My entire being was focused on the window. Tap, tap, tap. It was louder this time, closer. I could feel the vibration through the floor. I forced myself to turn a page in my book, the rustling sound ridiculously loud in the tense silence. I could feel it out there. I could feel its focus, its hunger. It wanted me to look. It needed me to look. I started thinking about Maya. I pulled my phone out and looked at her picture, her smiling, cheeky face. The tubes in her nose were barely visible. The money from this job was already making a difference. She was scheduled for a new treatment, a better one. This place, this hellish little box of light, was buying her a chance to breathe. And for that, I could face anything. I could ignore a monster tapping on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. The final series of taps was a furious, angry pounding that shook the entire window frame. I flinched but held my ground, my knuckles white as I gripped my phone. Then, silence. Nothing but the wind and the falling snow. I waited for what felt like an eternity before I dared to steal a glance. There was nothing there, just the swirling snow. He was gone. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for 15 minutes, and my body slumped, exhausted. The nights bled into one another, a terrifying cycle of rituals and survival. I was a different person. The cheerful line cook was gone, replaced by a jumpy, paranoid man who saw threats in every shadow. But the money was good. Maya's treatments were working. My mom told me she was breathing easier, that she had more energy. Her voice on the phone was the only thing that kept me tethered to the real world, the only thing that made me drive back to this gas station every single night. Which brings me to tonight. It started off as normal. The phone rang at 1:30 a.m. I did the ritual. The shadowless man came for his milk at 3 a.m. I avoided his gaze. I spent an hour cleaning a smudge off the cooler door that looked a little too much like a grinning face. I was on edge, more than usual. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange electricity. The woods were too quiet. Not the usual quiet, but a dead, holding its breath kind of quiet. At 4:45 a.m., with only an hour and a bit to go until sunrise, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then they went out. Plunging, absolute darkness.
Rule number 7, the one I prayed I'd never have to use. If the power cuts out, lock the front door immediately. Get behind the counter, stay low, and stay silent until the emergency generator kicks in. The bell on the door is a liar in the dark. My blood turned to ice. The front door. I hadn't locked it after letting a trucker use the restroom an hour ago. It was a stupid mistake, a moment of complacency. My heart hammered against my ribs. The emergency generator was supposed to kick in after 60 seconds. 60 seconds in this darkness felt like a lifetime. I scrambled from my chair, my hands outstretched, fumbling through a blackness so complete it felt solid. My shin crashed into the magazine rack, sending a cascade of glossy paper to the floor. The sound was like a gunshot in the silence. Stay silent, the rule said. I had failed. I found the door, my fingers searching frantically for the deadbolt. I found it, twisted it. The click of the lock was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Now for the counter. I crawled on my hands and knees, the cold linoleum seeping through my jeans. I tucked myself into the small space where we keep the extra register tape, curling into a ball. My watch beeped. 60 seconds had passed. The generator hadn't started. Silence. Then I heard it. The sound that made my soul want to crawl out of my body. Jingle, jingle. The bell on the door. It jingled softly, playfully, as if someone had just walked in. But the door was locked. I had locked it. The bell on the door is a liar in the dark. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. I could hear something, a soft, wet, shuffling sound moving through the aisles. It was slow, methodical, searching. I heard a bag of chips crinkle as if nudged by a passing limb. I heard the soft squeak of a cooler door opening, then closing. My mind was racing. What was it? What comes when the lights go out? Earl never said. The unknown was 1,000 times worse than the tall man or the one with no shadow. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for the generator, for the sun, for anything. I thought of Maya. I pictured her face, her smile. I'm doing this for you, Maya. I'm doing this for you.
The shuffling stopped. It was right on the other side of the counter. I held my breath, my lungs burning. I could feel a presence there, a coldness that had nothing to do with the Alaskan night. It was a dead, ancient cold. I could smell something too, ozone, like right after a lightning strike, and something else, something foul, like damp earth and rotting meat. A low sound emanated from the other side of the counter. It wasn't a growl or a hiss. It was a soft, inquisitive humming, a discordant tune that seemed to vibrate inside my skull. It knew something was here. It was looking. Then, the worst possible thing happened. My phone in my pocket vibrated. A text message from my mom. It was probably just her, awake and worried, telling me to be safe on the drive home. But in this crushing silence, the bzz, bzz of the vibration was a cataclysm. The humming stopped. Dead silence. I knew, with a certainty that transcended fear, that it had heard me. It knew exactly where I was. I waited for the end, for a hand or a claw or something worse to reach over the counter and pull me out. My life didn't flash before my eyes. All I could see was Maya's face and the devastating thought that I had failed her. Then, a sound from outside, a low, guttural roar, followed by a loud thump against the outside wall of the station. The presence on the other side of the counter made a new sound, a chittering, angry noise. The shuffling started again, but it was faster now, moving away from me, toward the front of the store. I heard a scraping sound against the glass of the front door, a furious, frustrated scratching. And then, with a deafening clank and a shudder, the emergency generator kicked in. The fluorescent lights flickered to life, bathing the store in their pale, humming glow.
The store was empty, but it was a wreck. Bags of chips were strewn across the floor. The cooler door was wide open, and on the inside of the glass front door, there were 3 long, deep gouges etched into the surface, leaving behind a thick, black, tar-like substance that smoked faintly in the light. I stayed curled up behind the counter, shaking uncontrollably until the first hint of gray dawn appeared over the mountains. I did not move. I just listened to the hum of the lights and the frantic beating of my own heart. When Earl arrived at 6 a.m., he found me sitting on the floor, staring at the scratches on the door. He didn't look surprised. He just looked at me, then at the mess, then back at me. He let out one of his long, weary sighs. "Generator's been acting up," he rasped, as if that explained everything. "Sometimes takes a bit longer to kick on." He looked at the gouges on the door. "Looks like you had a busy night." I couldn't speak. I just looked at him, my eyes wide with the horror of what I'd experienced. He walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. It was surprisingly steady. "You followed the rules, Leo. That's all that matters. You're still here. The sun is up." He pointed to the stump outside. "Don't forget the jerky." I quit that day. I took the envelope with my week's pay and I drove away, never looking back. I went back to Anchorage. I got my old job back. I told my mom I'd found a better, safer way to get the money. It was a lie. I took out loans I knew I could never repay, but it was better than the alternative. For a while, it worked. I tried to be normal again, but you don't just walk away from a place like that. It leaves a mark on you. I can't sleep in total darkness anymore. Every time a phone rings unexpectedly, my heart seizes. I find myself watching people's feet, checking for shadows. Maya's doing better. The treatments are working miracles. She can run now, short distances, without gasping for air. Her laughter is the most beautiful sound in the world. But every time I look at her, I feel a cold knot of dread in my stomach. The loans are catching up to me. The bills are piling higher than ever. The desperation is coming back. And last night, I found a yellowed, folded piece of paper in the pocket of my old work jacket. I read the rules again, and I thought about the paycheck that would be waiting in that dusty back office. I thought about the thing in the dark, and the thing that roared outside and saved me. I'm starting to think this place isn't just about random monsters. It's a system, a balance. And that gas station, it's the border, the line between their world and ours. They say the cold in Alaska seeps into your bones, but they don't tell you that some jobs do too. They don't tell you that sometimes the only way to protect the people you love is to stand guard at the gates of hell with a list of crazy rules and a pot of stale coffee. My car is gassed up. My bag is packed. I know the drive by heart now. I have to go back. I don't want to. God, I don't want to. But I have to. Because I'm the only one who knows the rules. I'm the one who survived the night. I am the night attendant at the Kick River Gas and Go. And I'm the only thing standing between the world that sleeps and the things that tap on the glass.